What up? What up, my guys? On to another show, man. It's NFL Talk with Jay, man. We back. It's another day. We are partnered with Wager Talk, guys. So we'll have all type of great Wager Talk cappers on here, like Steve Merril, like Adam Trigger we had yesterday. What's up with you, Steve? Everything cool with you, my brother?
Yeah, I got a real Canadian football in the backdrop there, but I grabbed the plush one because you never know where it might end up. I can't be breaking no more laptops, Jay, as you've seen over in the NBA show with the basketballs, So we're going plush for the NFL season.
I like it, man. So yeah, like I say, man, Steve, this guy does all sports over there at Wager Talk as well. Today we're gonna talk some NFL preseason betting tips and talk about go run through these games as well, guys. So we appreciate everybody for tuning in. Hit the like button, subscribe. Obviously we started out with NBA, but we're doing NFL as well, guys. Let's get to it. But first off, Steve, let's get right into it. Are there any NFL preseason betting tips that you'd like to give people? Obviously, not everyone likes to bet on these exhibition games, but there are still people that like to, and the money still pays the same, Steve. So any pointers or tips that you could give the viewers on betting these preseason games?
Oh, yeah. Well, first of all, excellent point. I mean, the cash is just as green, right, when it cashes in the NFL preseason. And, new bettors especially are like, how can you possibly bet on games that don't count, right? Well, I've always said you can put odds on anything in life, right? You can put odds on lightning strike, and you can put odds on anything. So there is a correct price, and the NFL preseason odds are very difficult for sports books to handicap and to put odds on. So there's a reason why the limits are a lot lower. And whenever you see lower limits on a sport, as opposed to like the regular season games, that tells you that the lines are soft. So there's money to be made. It's a lot about information. Unfortunately, when I started, this will be my 27th football season. I started back in '96. This will be my 27th football season now. It was all about getting the information back in the 90s. The internet had just come off. We could read online newspapers. Some teams would be playing their starters 3 quarters. Another team would be resting them, and it wouldn't be reflected in the price. Nowadays, with social media, Twitter, etc., we all have the same information. So you kind of have to dig a little bit deeper, and it's more about motivation now. The odds are going to reflect which quarterback rotation is in there, but I like to look for teams that are maybe a little more hungry. A very interesting situation this year, Jay. We have, I believe, 10 new NFL head coaches, like the most in a long time.
Right.
Those are guys that normally want to.
We lost Dieter for a sec.
Try to win, maybe, as opposed to teams that are veterans, etc. An approach with the NFL preseason. It's not like handicap in the regular season, but there's definitely some good situations to be found.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I like to go with the new head coach as well. I like to go with teams that didn't really necessarily have a good season last year. They're just trying to get started off in the right foot. Obviously, there might be the time for some of the teams that's not as good to get some wins under their belt, because likely in the regular season won't be many of those wins, my guys. But let's go ahead and talk about it, man. Let's get into the first game here, Steve. We have the Atlanta Falcons here getting 2.5 points versus the Detroit Lions. This line has moved. The Falcons were at like +1, -1. Now we're seeing some Lions steam here. Now we know, Steve, that the Lions are having the hard knocks. Everybody's a Lions fan right now. But how do you think this game goes? They are at the house. Both teams kind of have a little QB situation here, so could possibly see some points here as well. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, speaking of points, NFL preseason games, you can just tell by looking at the totals, right? A lot lower than a regular season game. I mean, in the NFL regular season now, we don't even see 30s anymore. Like a low 40 is a low total for a regular season game. Every game on the board tonight is 36 or less. This one is around 35.5. Last week, the Hall of Fame game went as low as 30.5, and it barely got over. Jacksonville got some garbage points late in that one last Thursday, a week ago. So this is a fairly moderate total for an opening game, and I think you're right. It opened 32. It's up to 35.5. There's been some sharp money on the over. I do like the quarterback rotations, and I do think, Jay, that's why we've seen some over money. Mm-hmm. But once again, early in the season, the defenses are normally ahead of the offenses. They've had some inter-squad scrimmages. That's about it. And a lot of changing on offense. It's easier to get guys on defense, just play hard, hit the guys. Offense is a little more finesse. But I do think this is one of those games that we will see some points tonight. I would lean towards the over, even though the price has risen.
Yeah, that's a good point there as well. Like I say, a lot of good quarterbacks in this one, even behind the main quarterbacks as well. So it'll be interesting to see how the Falcons are. We know that Dan Campbell, they don't have a new coach with the Lions over there, but they are at the house. We know that he's going to want to get as many wins as he can. It's just the type of guy he is. But over there for the Falcons, don't they have a new head coach over there, Steve? The Falcons?
Yeah, and the other thing about Atlanta too, Matt Ryan gone. This is a team that's projected to have one of the worst records in football this year. So you'd be like, well, that's a team like we're talking about that normally would be motivated. But the thing about the Falcons, they haven't really been a bad team until recently. So I'm not sure that mindset applies to a team like Atlanta as much as Detroit, who's been a really bad team for many years.
Yeah, that's a good point there, man. And hey, you never know with this one. It's a tough one. It's not something that I even put some money on, but I would lean towards the Lions here in this one. I feel like overall team chemistry will be a lot better in this one. Falcons got a ton of young guys over there that's trying to mesh and stuff, and not necessarily sure I would like Felipe Franks as well, not to be just a quarterback. Maybe make some plays with his feet, but I'm not sure about throwing the ball down the field. But let's go over here to the streets of Jacksonville real quick, Steve. We have the Cleveland Browns, Deshaun Watson will be starting this game unless anything happens up until the end. So with some with sanctions or anything, but Deshaun Watson will be starting this game. Now you have the Jaguars in theory, Steve, that have a game under their belt. They did get throttled in that Hall of Fame game, but at least they did have a game under their belt already, somewhat of a leg up on the other team here. But the Browns, obviously, with the QB situations, you got to prep reset. You got to get Deshaun Watson ready. He hadn't played in a whole year. So, do you have any word on like Lawrence, or is Lawrence going to play in this? I know he didn't play in the first one.
Yeah, it's been interesting because this line's been jumping around. We saw Jacksonville open as a small favorite last week, around -1.5, and then earlier in this week we saw Jacksonville actually go to a dog. Cleveland became a 1.5 point favorite, and now we see Jacksonville -1.5 again. So that's telling me that people think Lawrence is going to play because we saw the line move in the Hall of Fame game when they announced he wouldn't. One angle I do really like that you mentioned is the fact that Jacksonville does have a game under their belt. This is an angle for decades that has worked fairly well, and it's usually really priced into the line. In fact, back in the day, you'd see a 4, 5, 6 point favorite sometime just because they had played already. So getting Jacksonville at home off a fairly bad showing last week, bad team in general like we've talked about, and a decent quarterback rotation if Lawrence plays. I like Jacksonville in this one, and it's a cheap price, -1.5 to get a team that's already played a game. Normally they're a 3, 4, 5 point favorite in this spot. And yes, Cleveland has some good quarterbacks as well, especially if Watson does get some reps tonight. But they got a lot of distractions there as well. This looks like a good spot for me for Jacksonville, minus the 1.5. And home field is worth something. Every home team is favored. That we have a pick 'em, but every other home team is a couple point favorite tonight. Because once again, if you're at home, you're a little more motivated to try to win in front of the home crowd. And I think Jacksonville checks a lot of those motivation boxes we just talked about. Plus, they have the bonus of having a game under their belt.
Yeah, those are facts right there, man. They definitely have a game under their belt. This is a tough one, man. I want to talk about this next game where we have the home team sitting at a peak. But this is a tough one. I definitely need to know that more players are going to play. Last game in the Hall of Fame game, we know that Trevor Lawrence wasn't going to play. The backup wasn't going to play. They actually had like a laundry list of players that wasn't going to play. So maybe see if the Jags care a little bit more about this one. What were they? 2-14 last year? So they were horrible last year. I'd like to think that they have a little bit more urgency, at least trying to win a game. It's meaningless. Come on, you won 2 games last year, man. Come on now. But I'd lean Jacksonville as well, Steve. Let's go over here to the streets of Philadelphia, man. The grimy streets of Philadelphia here is tough up there playing for one of those teams, man, I must say. But you do have the Eagles here. It's basically at a pick across the board now. So if whichever team, you basically just pick the winner. You got the Jets here going into Philadelphia here. Steve, the Jets, not necessarily a great team, right? I believe they have a new coach as well, or senior coach. Regardless, they probably want to get one of these wins, man. Trick came on the show yesterday, gave us his play. He likes the Jets. I put a little sum on there with them, riding with them. Obviously, this preseason, so nothing huge, but I put a little sum on the Jets today, Steve. Could you talk me off that one?
No, I wouldn't disagree. And the sharp money is coming. Also, the Eagles open about a 1.5 point favorite. It's down to pick them, as you said. By the way, we've seen some money in the Jacksonville over 33 up to 36.5. Another indication that they think Lawrence is going to get some reps. This total has also risen. In fact, 4 of the 5 games tonight, the total has risen, including this one from 33 up to 35.5. So, once again, we're 35 also, by the way, Jay, is a fairly key number. There's several combinations that get you there. So we talked about that with the Atlanta-Detroit game. Here again, we've gone from 33 to 35.5. So some of the value's gone with the over, but I think the quarterback rotations are decent in this one. I think the Jets will have more motivation than the Eagles. The Eagles are a team that could win the division. The Jets are just trying to compete still. And so even though this is a road game, I could see New York taking it more serious. And I thought the Jets, I don't know if it'll really apply this season, maybe in the preseason. I thought they had a great draft, and I do think they had one of the best drafts this year in the NFL. So they do have some young talent, which also means they might be a decent play in the preseason. So I would agree with this move. I would agree with Trig, and Jets pick them, I think, win this game.
Yeah, they got their defensive tackle over there, boy, pushing people back on his feet over there. What's his name? Is Jordan? What's this guy's name?
Yeah, I'm drawing on mind blank too. But they had like 3 first-round picks, I think. I mean, this is a team that, I don't know if that's going to come in the regular season and help them, but you would think in the preseason, having that kind of young talent. And these are guys who are going to play hard in the preseason because they've never played an NFL game before. I think that's a positive.
Right. Yeah, I played a little small. I rode with Trig yesterday. You guys watching the show yesterday. He gave us his play on the Jets. So I like to say I rode with him. I put a little something on their Jets as well, man. I couldn't talk them off. I like the scenario. A fairly new coach as well. They're trying to at least build some type of winning culture. The Jets have been bad for a while, and if you're trying to change their culture, even though this is a meaningless game, it may be a little bit more meaningful to the Jets, guys. And like I say, it's what we're looking for. Jordan Davis. I knew his name was Jordan.
Davis. Yeah, Davis. There you go.
Big ass motherfucker. That's his name. No, I'm messing with you guys. All right, let's go to the next game here, man. Let's go over here to the streets of Cincinnati. We have the Arizona Cardinals here, +2 versus Cincinnati Bengals. The Super Bowl losers, they are still projected to have a pretty good team this year. Now, the Cardinals, I know for one, Steve, they've come out and basically said they're not playing their guys. They're not playing their starters. We know how they operate over there. And Kyler Murray has COVID anyway, so and if you're trying to have aspiration to have a really good season, you definitely don't want to have any major injuries in the preseason. It's a tough game here, Steve. What you think about this? Maybe a little play on the total here?
Yeah, this is that one game out of 5 that I referenced where the total's actually gone down. I said that 4 of the 5 it's gone up. This one opened 33.5. It's now down to 31, and this is a perfect example of that information affecting the line. As you said, Cardinals obviously without Murray, they're going to take it very easy. The Bengals, also the defending AFC champs, what motivation do they have? Their motivation, I'll tell you what their motivation is, to get through this preseason healthy, would be my opinion if I'm the coach. So
run the ball.
31 is a very low total, but for good reason. Cincinnati's about a 1.5 to 2 point home favorite. Once again, Cincinnati's not a play-on team for me in the preseason after overachieving last year. But then again, do you want anything to do with the Cardinals, who are really shorthanded, probably just want to get in and get out of Cincinnati as fast as possible. So I do think the under 31 is probably the safest play here. Not a lot of line value, although I will say this. We talked about it last week, the Hall of Fame game. I pulled up some charts from about 7 years ago when games used to be in the 30s. That's why you had to go back that far because, they just aren't anymore. 30 and 37 are the key numbers. 31, 32 aren't too key. So going from 33.5 to 31 really hasn't crushed the total too much. 30 is a very key number. So as long as we stay 30.5, 31, I would lean under in this one, even despite the low total.
Yeah, I'd lean the under here as well, man. So I know the Cardinals, I know Cole McCoy or Murray isn't going to play. So they basically have their third and fourth string quarterbacks. And then for the Bengals, we know Burrow is not, going to get many snaps, if any, which he's not playing. No, he just had a surgery or something like that not too long ago. So we know he's not out there. In theory, two teams that need to work on their defense more than the offense is there, right? These two teams need to work on their defense in theory. So I put a little something on the under in this game, man. Not a lot of ton of starters. Likely two teams running the ball a lot, man. Give me the under in this one. So I put a little something on the Jets, put a little something on the under in this one. We got one more game up here, Steve. Obviously small range, just preseason, man. But I might have to do a little WNBA show here, man. But we got the Packers here, Steve. Last game up, they're getting 2.5 versus the San Francisco 49ers. 49ers are at the house. Is Lance playing this? So I know that they pretty much have to get them ready. You obviously don't want to get them injured, but are there some of their guys in the play? You got any info on this one, Steve?
Yeah, I've been digging in on this one. They've got some injuries with guys like Jordan Matthews, a tight end. I mean, so I think once again, the 49ers and Packers are both teams that are probably taking a cautious perspective to the preseason. Obviously, you don't want to risk someone like Aaron Rodgers. He does not need any preseason work. Jordan Love, I would think, would get a lot of work in the preseason since he's the heir apparent. I believe they're only carrying 3 quarterbacks. So, if Rodgers plays or doesn't play at all, you're talking about a lot of Jordan Love most likely. Otherwise, you got Danny Etling as your other guy, which, so for me, the key, Jay, in the handicap in the Packers this preseason is really finding out how much Jordan Love's playing. Because I don't expect Rodgers to play much, if any. But I would rather have Love in there than Etling, so there's a bit of a drop-off between second and third there. 49ers are in that really difficult NFC West. Trey Lance obviously does need some work. They've got Nate Sudfeld, who's a pretty veteran backup. After that, they don't have much. So this is another game where I might lean under. And one thing I want to point out about 4 of the 5 totals going higher, we saw overs again last night. I mentioned that Hall of Fame game squeaked over. And then last night, the Patriot-Giant game was pretty high scoring in the 40s. And then that Ravens game landed 33, and it was 32-33 during the week. So it was either 2-0, 3-0 to the over so far in all the games. So I do think that's a reason we've seen some over money. And I'm kind of looking for reasons maybe to play some unders. This one, I could see that. I don't think either quarterback rotation is going to be that strong. And total's gone from 32.5 up to 35.5 now. So I actually think this one might be inflated a little too much with the total.
That's a good point there. Yeah, it's definitely moved the whole field goal there.
Right.
So maybe a little room there as well. But I don't know, like you said, man, Sudfeld, like you said, Love, we know he can put up some numbers. Not sure about Edlin. That's the quarterback from LSU over there. But I know that, like I say, if Lance gets in there, then Sudfeld, those boys might move the ball. I am weary of going under with that one, especially with it moving the whole 3 points. But also that is giving you more value in theory on the under. So, but that's a tough one, man. I usually, especially in preseason, guys, I kind of like to watch the numbers. Like if I'm not going with the lines, not too many times I'm gonna go against it, if that makes sense. Now that doesn't mean you can't cash, but there's probably people out there that have more info than I do. You see what I'm saying? But also, Steve, it doesn't take a lot of money to move a total or number in the pre-seed as well, because there's not a lot of people betting a lot of money on it, man. So
yeah, one other thing too is like Teddy Covers and I had this discussion Tuesday on Wager Talk today. 3 is obviously the key number in football in the regular season. About 10% of the time, a favorite's going to win by exactly 3 points. But Teddy said that 1 and 2 are more key than 3 in the preseason.
Yeah.
And I don't have the charts. I need Ralph Michaels maybe to get us those charts, but if you look at how these lines have moved, Jay, they're all like 1.5 to 2.5, right? And they've moved in that range. So keep in mind that 1s and 2s do come into play a lot more than 3 in the preseason as opposed to the regular season. And by the way, it does look like the 49ers are going to play their starters, including Lance. And I think that's another reason we've seen some money coming on the 49ers, because Rodgers, of course, is out and they are the home team. But here again, if it was a regular season game, you'd say, oh, minus 2.5, let's grab that value. But it's crossed 1 and 2 now, so maybe minus 2.5 is more like a minus 3.5 in the regular season. It gets kind of tricky.
Yeah, last thing I'll say on this one, then we'll wrap it up. Me personally, if it's under 3 in the preseason, guys, and if you want to bet the game, doesn't mean you have to. Just go ahead and lay the money line. It's one of those to where the money line is the plus CV bet over laying the points. As you saw with the Giants game last night, they're laying 2.5, 3 on a late number. You took the money line, you cashed. And avoided either losing by the hook or losing by a point, guys. So, but real quick, man, let's talk about some shirts, man, real quick. Got plenty of shirts over there at jmoneyismoney.com. If you'd like to support the channel, I'll have an NFL shirt here pretty soon as well. Go check out the channel. We got these nice shades over there as well. Got deals on those as well. But let's get to some free picks. Here, Steve, you got any promo codes for us, or let us know what you have going over there at Wager Talk, whether it's baseball, whatever, my brother. I know you're about to have a huge NFL season, and anything, if you were to make a play on tonight, what would you play?
Yeah, I'll look at a free opinion for the NFL preseason here in a moment. I do have a strong baseball best bet tonight. We've been smoking it in baseball, 75% run the past couple weeks. I just did a weekend, just a bit outside video for wagertalk.com, Wager Talk TV. So check that out. And there's also the Wager Talk TV app now that you can download in all the app stores. We're on Roku as well. Looking forward to the NBA season, Jay. More people can see us than ever with that Wager Talk TV app. And a promo code I have on my page right now, just go to Steve Merril at wagertalk.com, is Mound7. It's 7 days of MLB for just $49. That's $7 a day for my Red Hot Baseball. Mound7, and all that information is on my page, Steve Merril, wagertalk.com.
I like it. Anything for tonight? There's one play that you'd like tonight?
Yeah, look, I've got a baseball best bet. I've got a free baseball play, by the way, on my page at wagertalk.com, so check that out. And for the preseason, my top opinion would be that under in the Arizona-Cincy game. Look, it's the lowest total on the board. But as I said, it's the only one of the 5 tonight where we've seen the line drop. That's some sharp money on the under. I agree with it. Under 31. 30 is a key number. So as long as we stay above that, under 31 has some value between Arizona and Cincy. 2 teams that literally just want to get this game in, get it done, and get over with because they have a lot of injuries, a lot of guys out. They're not going to push it.
I want to see 3-0 at the end of the half and 7-3 at the end of the game, man. We're going with the under and the Arizona Cardinals and Cincinnati Bengals under 31, my guys. I'm put a little something on that as well, and also roll with my guy Trig yesterday on his Jets play, guys. So let's get some cash today. Obviously, small plays, guys. It's probably like a 1/4 of a unit for me, but I still trying to win it, not trying to lose, my guys. So I appreciate Steve for coming on with me as always. There's definitely going to be more NFL shows with him. Go check him out, man. At Steve Merril, 2 R's, 1 L on Twitter, my guys. Wager Talk, he's on there all the time as well. We got all type of great cappers over there, free picks, free shows as well. Those are the NFL Kings, and we're partnering with them, man. So stick with us. Y'all can follow me as well on Twitter at JMoneySmoney. We will win today, my guys. Let's get some cash. We out. Until next time.